Welcome to Endorphasmic, where we talk about all things endorphasm. I am your hostess, Erica Porter. As you can hear, I am still struggling with this paralyzed vocal cord and the injection that I got. I don't know if it's ever going to be fixed, but in the meantime, I'm still talking. Maybe one day I won't, but until that day comes, here I am. I want you to find your fire. Life doesn't whisper, it hits like a wrecking ball. Man, I wish I had a soundtrack here because Miley Cyrus would be like, I came in like a wrecking ball. I can't sing. I couldn't sing even before I had a paralyzed vocal cord. But man, it hits like a wrecking ball, crushing and cracking and breaking you open. And then it dares you to rise. And when it does, I'm telling you, get the fuck up, because you're not here to survive. You're here to live loudly, boldly, unapologetically. And I know this. I knew this before, but it also came in like a wrecking ball, because 5 years ago today, I sat across from a doctor who told me I had stage 4 cancer. Not curable, he said, but treatable. Carlos, sitting beside me, asked one question. Well, it was really a two-part, but the same question. What do we do differently? What does Erica do differently? The doctor paused and said, like I tell everyone, you should have your affairs in order, diagnosis or not. But then he turned to me, eyes locked, and asked, do you love what you do? And without hesitation, I said, I fucking love what I do. And he nodded and he said, then keep living your life. So I did, because here's the truth. What keeps you alive when the clock starts ticking louder? Sounds morbid, I know, but what keeps you alive when the clock starts ticking louder? Love. Love for who you are and what you do and how you show up in the world. Love that doesn't ask for permission. Every morning, I ask myself, and by the way, I have asked myself this since I was probably 24 years old, 25 years old. If this were my last fucking day, am I proud of how I'm about to live it? And if the answer is no, for too many days in a row, then you gotta change. You gotta change something. You gotta change your path, or what you're doing, or what you think makes you happy. Burn the rules, shatter the timelines, set fire to the fucking expectations, because none of that bullshit matters when you're staring death in the face. And by the way, that is every day. Mortality isn't a threat, it's a motherfucking gift. It's the gift that reminds us that this is it. This moment is what you have, and then this moment is gone. This moment right now is what you have, and then the moment is gone. This is your one shot. And once you really understand that, you stop shrinking, you stop apologizing, and you stop explaining your fire to people who are still afraid of their own spark. You start choosing more meaning, more truth, more impact, more life. So here's your mission. Find what you love and live it like your life depends on it, because it fucking does. Move, speak, fight, love, lead. And if you haven't found it yet, keep going. Stay raw, stay real, and oh my God, stay unfuckwithable, because the next chapter, it's you. When I was diagnosed, Carlos stepped away from his career. He felt that time apart from me, time apart from our son, from the life we were building, it no longer made sense to him. So it was one of those things where he kept asking the question, and there were too many no's, too many days in a row. So we immersed ourselves in the Endorphasm Foundation. We built something that gave others diagnosed with cancer a reason to move, to live through it, not just survive with it. And when the foundation was stable and the gym, my soul was thriving under a trusted team, I made good on a promise to step back, to be more present as a mother, as a partner, as a human. And then Carla went back to work, serving within the fire department, chasing purpose in a new form. And for a moment, we got to work together again, in pieces. Then Carlo, or no, not then Carlo. And then in April of 2024, we went to Key West for spring break. And everything started to shift. We met a captain that would change our lives. He was a no fluff, no filter, just real guy. And when he let my son and Carlo go spearfishing, the one thing he said to them is, don't shoot one another. And he and I talked about the passion that my son has had since he was 4 years old to be a charter fisherman. And so when he offered my son a chance to work for him in the summer, I asked him, do you really mean that? And he said, 100% yes, I do. So I went back to the hotel that we were staying in, and I found a house to rent for the entire month of July. And in July, I watched my son come alive. He wasn't just happy, he was free. And what started as a summer dream became a very serious question. Could we live here? And when the universe answers that kind of question, you do not ignore it. Carlo had just started his new role, so we did what parents do when their child's future is calling. He stayed in Richmond, and I moved to Key West with our son. I flew back often, but every trip to Richmond was work. It was programming and no rest, duties and responsibilities. Maintaining a gym that I had built from the ground up and an amazing team that helped it become what it was. But I wasn't able to enjoy my time with Carlo. And then, of course, as time was passing, there came judgment and whispers, and people made assumptions. They wrote their own stories about my life without ever asking for mine. And of course, this was a day-by-day situation. I had no idea how any of it would unfold. But in October of 2024, the hammer dropped. The building was purchased by two individuals that really had no interest in anything that was occurring in that building at the moment. They were just interested in, because they had bought the building without really understanding what was happening to the building, they decided that the tenants would take the brunt of the costs associated with fixing the building. So my rent increased by 4 times, and I had less than 24 hours to make the decision as to whether or not I would sign a new lease or not. So do I stay and bleed or walk and breathe? And what I loved about that place, what I loved about the community was being there, being in the trenches, feeling the heart and the soul, being part of the pulse of all of it, and knowing that that was no longer going to be the case because my life had shifted to Key West. I chose my son. I chose an exciting new opportunity. I chose love. I chose life, and it shattered me because the gym, the red room, was my heart. It was my healing. It was my identity. It was my community. And letting it go, it felt like losing a piece of myself. But what hurt even more than the loss was the judgment, the silence, the stories people told without truth. And some people never asked, they never cared, and that's on them. But the ones who stayed, the ones who were curious, the ones that asked questions, they're still here. They're still standing with me. And the rest, I always wish people the abundance that they deserve, because I have to believe deeply that ignorance and not malice is what drives people to make assumptions and, whatever it is. And I've always been one that has always wanted to control the narrative, but I didn't know exactly what the narrative was. So that's why you have to ask questions. I thought I had already learned all of life's lessons, but I was wrong. And if I had to do it all again, I would in a heartbeat, because this is what love does. This is what motherhood looks like. This is what living on purpose means. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. You keep living. You keep choosing fire, because this is your story and the next chapter is unwritten. So write it boldly. Write it in blood. Write it in fire, because your time is now. Love, health, and happiness, and always much respect.